available for viewing later at your leisure. If you want to grab some popcorn and some drink and then bring a few friends over and have them all watch it with you, you're perfectly going to be able to do that, and we encourage that. As a matter of fact, share it with your friends, tell them how wonderful it is and how great Billy does with this presentation. So a few housekeeping things before we get started. You all should have a GoToWebinar control panel on your machine. You should see both a chat and a questions area within that control panel. At any point during the process, if you have a question, if you need something answered immediately, you feel free to use the chat and the questions section, either one, doesn't matter. I'll be watching for both, to post those questions, and we'll try to address them. Everyone is in listen-only mode so that Billy can complete the presentation. If you have any questions, we will open it up at the end. If you would prefer to hold them until then, we will open up all the lines at the end so that you can ask any questions and Billy can respond to those. So that being said, our topic today is the Dynamics GP Smartlist Designer. And these, just before Billy gets started, these office hour sessions, I will say, they aren't intended to make you experts at these particular topics, but they are intended to enlighten you. So hopefully what you'll get today is learning that yes, indeed, there is a Dynamics GP Smartlist Designer, what it can do as well as what it cannot do, and how it may fit within your organization. I see that we've got a diverse list of clients that are logged in here, so I think this will be a good topic, and it is good for everyone. Smartlist Designer is a nice new tool that Microsoft has created and put into Dynamics GP to replace, more or less, the Smartlist Builder tool that used to be available. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Billy. And Billy, I'm going to show your screen, or actually I'm going to make you the presenter and allow you to show your screen here. And I'm going to go on mute, but I will be watching chat and questions. So if anybody puts anything in that they need answered immediately, I will try to take care of that. Otherwise, we'll open it up at the very end. So, Billy, it is all yours.
Okay, thank you, Philip. So we are going to get started looking at Smartlist Designer today. Smartlist Designer was released in GP 2013 Service Pack 2, and they did a few enhancements with the GP 2013 R2, and from what I've read, plan to do some additional enhancements around the fourth quarter of 2015. So sometime at the end of this year, hopefully there'll be some additional enhancements. From everything that I've been reading and hearing about Smartlist Designer, this is something that Microsoft is saying they're going to continue to enhance. It's not something they're just going to put out and this be the one-time build. This is something they're going to continue to work on and try to improve, which is really good news, because I think right now, out of the box, it's a good product, but I think, you know, some of the things that I've seen that they're hoping to do with it, I think it could be a really great product. So let's get started. There are two ways to access the Smartlist Designer. The first is if we go here to our Microsoft Dynamics GP and open Smartlist. And now that we're in Smartlist, we see there's two buttons that were previously not here, our New and our Modify. So if we hit New, that will take us into our Smartlist Designer. You can also go down to your administration and access the Smartlist Designer from the administration as well. Most users will be accessing it from the Microsoft Dynamics GP Smartlist window, so that's the way we will access it. Once you get into Smartlist Designer, you have several ways that you can create a report. You can create a completely new report, or you can click on an existing report and you could select modify. If we had a report that we've already created, this is a brand new instance of GP that was just set up, so we don't have any here that we could modify. But if we did, we could select one and modify that report by just clicking modify here at the top. You can base your reports off of new reports, modified reports, or SQL views. So you have 3 options here. So if we go into new, once we select new, we can name our smart list. We can select what product. For the most part, it will be Microsoft Dynamics GP, and we can select our series. So for our series, if we were creating an inventory report, we could select inventory. And then we have several different sections here on the screen. The first is our database view. This lists all the different options we have, all of our tables and all of our views that we can pull the data from that are associated with the company. We have our selected fields. So once we selected a table here, then it would show the available fields or the fields that we've selected. We also have at the bottom or in the middle here our relationships. This is how we'll build the relationships between the different tables. And then we have our filter. The filter is the same as if you were in Smartlist and you selected the search button and put in your parameters. And then we have our results preview. Now this is what makes it a little bit different from Smartlist Builder. With Smartlist Builder, in order for you to see your results, you have to go in to Smartlist, let it refresh the Smartlist, add in the new code, then you have to open the Smartlist and look at what you've just built. If you need to make a change, you'd have to go back into Smartlist Builder, make your changes, and go through that whole process again. Where here you can just hit your execute query at the top, and it will give us a preview of what we're going to see here at the bottom. So let's go in and go to Microsoft Dynamics. Let's just create a basic report on our customers. So we went to Microsoft Dynamics GP and we selected sales, and then we expanded the sales. These are all of our different available tables that make up the sales module. So we can see that we have some customer information, we have some extended pricing, we have some receivables, some invoicing. So we could go down to our sales transaction history report. If we selected sales transaction history, if we check this first box, which, sorry, it kind of whited it out. If we select this box, it's going to select all the fields that are available in that table. And there are a lot of fields in that table. So maybe we don't need all that information. So instead of selecting that top box, you can go through and pick the ones that you would like. So maybe our SOP type, our SOP number, maybe we want a document date. Maybe we want to go in and select a batch number, customer name, customer number. Let's take the batch off. And maybe we want to look at some of our subtotals. Let me make sure I haven't missed it. This is a big table. There's our subtotal. So we'll do our subtotal, our freight amount. Now, if I wanted to create this report, I would come here and name it. So I could say sales, sales by customer, and I would put this in my sales series. Now, if I go to execute this query, Now I can see at the bottom, this is what I would get. So if I wanted to put in a filter, I could. So I could come in and say I want my document date to be, let's do more than 1/1/2014. And let's execute this again. So now we have just this basic report. So if I was happy with this report, I could say, okay, and it will take me right into Smartlist and show me the report. Here's my sales by customer. And just like with other Smartlist reports, I could then go into this report. I could add an additional search if I wanted to come in and say where the customer, maybe I want to say where the SOP type is equal to invoices, and say okay. And then I wanted to save this report. I could do just like I would do with any other Smartlist. I could come into my favorites and say invoices and add this favorite. So now you would never know that this was really built by using your Smartlist Designer. It's right here with your other sales reports, easy to access and get to. So now I also have the option to come up here and say modify, because now I've created a report, I can modify this report. So if I went to modify, and maybe I wanted to come back in and add in some additional customer information, so I could go to my tables, select sales, and maybe I wanted to find out something from the customer card, maybe the zip code that was listed on the customer card. So I could go to my RM Customer Master, expand it, if I selected the right one, let's see, RM Customer Master, select my customer number, and then I'm going to select let's see, maybe I wanted to know what's in my user defined 1 and 2, and the sales territory. So if I selected these three and now tried to execute my query, it's going to tell me that that table relationships need to be defined before I can execute this. So because I'm bringing in another table, I have to build a relationship between those two tables. So I can come in here to my relationships and I can try to do the auto link. And it's going to tell me it cannot be automatically created. I would say 6 to 7 out of 10 times you're going to get this message. The auto link right now doesn't work that well between the tables. You're better off to just come in and build your own relationship. So what we're going to do is select, when I select this, I see my two options for my tables. So I'm going to select my RM Customer Master. I'm going to select the customer number. I'm going to make it an inner join. My sales transaction history. And I'm going to select the customer ID here as well. Customer number. Okay, so now I've built that relationship. I'm going to try to execute my query, and now I can see I have that information. So now I can say OK. And so I'll now can see the additional fields that I added into this report. So I can see my user-defined 1. Doesn't look like there's anything in my user-defined 2. And here's my sales territory. And just like any other Smartlist report, if I wanted to export this out to Excel, I could export it out to Excel. And there's our report. We can also go into the Smartlist and now go into the invoices report that we had built. If you look at the invoices report that we had built under here, it's not showing the new fields. So we would have to remove this report and rebuild it. And with Smartlist Builder, you have to do the same thing. If you change that report, that main report, and then building reports under it, you have to go back and rebuild the other reports as well. So this one I would just have to come back and create a new report making the same search parameters that say only look at invoices, and then it would show all the new columns. So I could remove this one, go in here now, go to my search, and the SOP type is equal to invoices once again. It's okay. And then create a new favorite. And there's our report. So now if we go back in to our Smartlist Designer, we can see that we have our report. Let's actually go in this way. Let's go in and modify our report. If we wanted to modify this report and add a calculated field, we could also come over to our little box here. It looks like a little sun with the FX. That is for our calculations. So if we select that button and select Add, maybe we want to have our subtotal plus our freight. So we would come into our table fields. We would select our sales transaction history. We could select our subtotal, and we can select our function. And we could select the freight field. So now we have our freight amount plus our subtotal amount. We could save this. It's valid, so we can say OK. And that would give us our new subtotal plus freight calculated field that we just created. And if you needed to create any additional ones, you can create them here. All right, so let's go back. Let's execute our query. And we could say OK here. Okay, so that is how we would go in, add our calculated fields, as well as modifying the report. Now, if we wanted to build a report off of a SQL view, you see that you have all of the GP tables, our fixed assets, all of our different modules, and then the very last one is our views. GP comes with some views, and then you can create additional views. So we have our
Billy,
system. Go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Billy. We do have one question.
Okay.
And it's, can you build the query to include other tables outside of the sales module, let's say financial module data? And I think I would answer that from two standpoints. One, obviously, yes, you can pull financial data into a Smartlist, but can we combine data from financial and from sales, or even from purchasing and financial, or combine different modules of data together in one Smartlist?
So yes, we can, as long as we have that common link. So if we have something to link the two tables together, then yes, we could create that. But we have to have that common field to be able to build that relationship.
Right. Okay.
Now, the other piece that I will say about that is, as of the last thing that I saw, when I haven't tested this with 2015, but you could not add tables that were outside of GP. So if you had another database, with Smartlist Builder, you can access tables from other databases. So if you had another system that was a SQL database, that had a back end of a SQL database, you could bring those tables in. But you cannot do that with Smartlist Designer unless that changed in 2015. And like I said, I haven't tested it.
Okay. Okay. And one additional question, where does the calculated field show up?
Okay, let me see if I can go back and get our calculated field. Let me go back to that report. Let's discard this. Let's go back in and modify it. Make sure our calculated field is on this one. And let's see if we are showing well, I thought that it would show up under our let me edit this. And I thought that we would see it right under our tables, but I do not. I mean, I thought it would automatically show it in our fields on the 2013 system, but maybe they've changed that. Let me check and see if we can find that under the sales, if it showed it as a calculated field. I'm not sure now. I'll have to check on that because I thought that it automatically showed it underneath. Philip, can you do a search on that and see if you can get us an answer before we finish, and we'll come back?
Yeah, I will. Sure.
To that piece of it. Let me say, okay, here, there's one other section. I just want to check and see if on our columns if it shows. No, I don't see it here. So if you can check on that and let us know. Okay, so let's go back and create. Any other questions before we go back and create one with the view?
that looks like it.
Okay. All right, let's go back and select New. So if we wanted to build a report off of a view, which actually when I did this, let me just discard because I wasn't, go back in, and let's just go back into Smartlist and get completely new report. So let's go into new, and let's build a report based off of view. So as I was saying, is with Microsoft Dynamics GP, you have a lot of views that come already built in that you can use. You can also search. There's a lot of great sites out there that will have some SQL views that you can use. But let's look here and see if we can find one that's already out here. So here's one that says items. So if we selected our item quantities, let's select that one. And let's pick our item number, quantity on hand, quantity on order. Let's do our item description, and quantity on hand, quantity on order, quantity allocated, quantity available. So again, if we execute this, it's just like using a table, except you're using the SQL view. And what I will say with this is if you are creating a SQL view yourself in SQL, you will have to make sure that you give proper access. The best way is usually to give select access to the DYNE group. But if you do not see your view show up here, or if you have problems with once the view is here, if you're the only user that can access the smart list or see any data in that smart list, then you may want to go back to SQL and check to make sure that you have granted the correct access in SQL to the view. But a lot of these are the built-in views that you can work with. We could use this view and then come back up here to our table. And if we had something with inventory that we wanted to add additional to this, we could add a table. So you can join your tables to your views. Again, you just have to be able to build that relationship. So here we would know that our item number is our key field between most, almost any relationship that you're going to build to the inventory table, you're going to use your item number as one of your key fields. So as long as we have that item number in both places, we could build that relationship. And what you will also notice is if we go down here to these views, let me see if I can, let's delete this, and let's go over here. Let's expand inventory. So with inventory, we see we have item quantities, items, landed cost, group ID. So if I go to new and I go down to our views, there's a view for each one of these default smart lists that came with GP. So if you have one of these smart lists that you just want to add something to, one way is to take this view that's here. So there's our items, there's our item quantities. If we went down a little bit, we should see there's our inventory transactions, our inventory purchase receipts. There's our landed cost group ID, our landed cost ID. So if you had one of these basic SmartList reports that you're already working with, but you are having trouble getting all the information you need, you may want to start with one of these views and then try to come up and add a table, link it to your view, and pull in that additional information. So if we went into our sales report and we went to sales transactions, and again, if there was one of these reports that we already like, this open invoices report, but we needed some additional information like our sales territory off the customer card, and we weren't able to access that. This is where we could come in, select New, we could do our Open Invoices with Territory, go down to our View, and pull that information if we needed. Now, because this is also one that's already built in, it's already pulled in this Open Invoices, so it's already pulled in the view for us. So all we would have to do is go back up here to this Microsoft Dynamics GP, go to our tables, we could go down to Sales, and then we could, again, pull our RM Customer Master. And if you'll notice that the names here are our display names. So if you've ever gone into Tools, Resource Descriptions, and then Tables to try to find the table name, if we went into our Sales module and did our display name, we could go through and find that the display name will match up. So if we see our RM Customer Master, that matches here. So if you only know the physical name or your SQL table name, you could sort it by that and find the display name that you needed to use. So if for some reason you had a SQL report or something else where you just had the SQL table name, this is how you could find that display name. Now, another option that we have with some of these smart lists is the Smartlist Designer is to create the go-tos. So a go-to is if we're in an existing smart list and we want to look at this transaction, we can just double-click it and it should take us into that transaction. That is what they refer to as your go-tos. So if you select this and then look here at the top and go to go-to, you can pick. By default, it's going to go into our sales order fulfillment, or but we could pick any, or our sales transaction entry, but we could pick any of these. So if we wanted to go to our customer maintenance, we could. When you're in your Smartlist Designer, if we went back to our sales order report, we could create go-tos there, so that you don't lose the ability to drill back into your transactions. So if we went into our sales by customer, went into modify, create go-to, do Microsoft Dynamics GP Smart List, it's just our customer master, Microsoft Dynamics GP. So what it's asking us here is which one do we want to create this on? Do we want to do it on the favorite that's here, or do we want to do it on the invoices? So if we just do it on our favorite here, on the little asterisk, or we can select invoices, we can select save. Then we can make this our default. Go-to is the customer master, and we can edit this piece. So this should create our go-to. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't look like they've added the last piece in on this go-to. This is something they just added in the 2015 portion of the Smartlist Builder. So what they're working on with this is trying to get it to take you all the way back into all the windows. If you're on the 2013 SP2, I believe this piece here will not be here, and it looks like we still have to do a little bit of work on this, because when you edit this, all it will allow you to do is go back in to your original report or into another report. So we could take it into customers, where it would drill you back into the customer's report, which isn't going to do you a whole lot of good. So it still hasn't, they've created a go-to in a way that you could drill back into other reports, but it's not giving you the option to actually drill back into Windows, into GP, which was one thing that I saw that they were hoping to get in one of the later enhancements. So hopefully that will come out, but there is some limitations on the go-tos for now, and I think if you're on the 2013, you may not have the go-tos at all. There's a few other pieces if you're used to Smartlist Builder that you're not going to see here with Smartlist Designer. So with Smartlist Builder, you could click on a field and format the date, or you could click on it so that you didn't have a date time, or if you didn't like the date having a 4-digit year, you wanted a 2-digit year, or you just wanted the month and the year, not the day. You could easily modify that with Smartlist Builder. So that's not available on Smartlist Designer yet. Another piece that you won't see in the Smartlist Designer is the ability to display negatives. Now, what you can do with that is try to build a formula that says, you know, if it meets certain criteria. So maybe if you're looking at your sales and you want returns to show up as negatives, then you would have to go into your calculated field and say, if the SOP type equals return, then multiply it times a -1 and try to get that to work. But otherwise, it's going to show up as a positive number. And there's not an easy click on the field, modify it like you could with Smartlist Builder. So Philip, do we have any more questions?
I do not see any additional questions.
Okay. And did you get the update on where to see that field?
I looked, but I did not find anything, unfortunately. So no, I don't have a good answer to that.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, that is fine. We will.
We will look for that answer, and for those that did attend the session, we'll make sure that we get that question answered to you. We'll get an email out to everyone that attended and let you know what the answer is.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So can we open up the floor now to questions to see if anybody has any questions or anything they'd like to see?
All right, so this is always tricky, so forgive me if I don't get this right, but I'm going to give it a shot here. So I see all of our attendees, and, oh, well, we do. Dana, I'm not sure you're going to get a prize for stumping us, but good try. Can we edit existing Smartlist Builder reports?
I haven't tried that, so I don't know if you can edit the existing Smartlist Builder reports.
My first guess on it would be no, because they were made with Smartlist Builder, which is technically a third-party product. It would kind of kind of be like trying to edit a payables transaction with a GL entry or something like that. It's not exactly the same, but my first guess would be that you wouldn't be able to do it.
And what I would say with that is if you have Smartlist Builder reports and you wanted to, if you were looking to get off Smartlist Builder and move it to Smartlist Designer, is that in Smartlist Builder you can see your, we don't have Smartlist Builder loaded on this machine, but you can go in and see the SQL view that makes up the report. And so you could, or the SQL query, you could copy out that SQL query, create a view, and easily build this report, rebuild it.
Okay.
So I wouldn't think that that would be too hard. So what you would see is, let's actually go back into our sales by customer and modify this. Much like we can see the T-SQL query here at the bottom. If we execute this, here's the query that makes up this report. So you would have a query that looks like this that would make your Smartlist Builder report, and we could copy that and build a view and then create a report here. So if you can't, it shouldn't be too hard to do that. Now, one thing we didn't go over that I will mention here, on this machine, it's not working because this is a demo box we just set up. But you do have the option to publish these reports. So if we were on a report, we could publish this. And once you publish it, which is as simple as clicking publish once you have that piece set up, and I'd say 5 to 10 minutes set up. But once you select publish for the from that point forward, it would say, okay, it's published. Then you could go out to your Excel reports in GP. So if we went to our Excel reports, we would see that report in the list of our Excel reports. We could select it, and then it would export it out to Excel so that it would be a refreshable report that you could open up from Excel without ever having to get into Smartlist. So it's a nice option. We just don't have it set up on this demo machine yet.
So in other words, you can take the Smartlist Designer, Smartlist that you've created, publish that Smartlist out to Excel, and then that Excel sheet then becomes a living, breathing document that you could go in and refresh and pull data from GP?
That's correct. So that you have, like if you had an inventory report here, that maybe you had people that needed to access inventory quantities and inventory information, but you didn't want them to get into GP, then you could publish this report. So for users that have Smartlist Builder, you may also have the Excel Report Builder. It works much like the Excel Report Builder, except there's not as much set up with publishing. You know, with the Excel Report Builder, you have to publish it out to a certain site or location. This, you just hit publish, and then you go into Excel and publish it out from there as well, and it's out there and ready for you.
Okay. All right.
So if anybody has that one, like us to show you on your machine, we can. Like I said, we just set this demo machine up and didn't get that piece finished in time.
All right. So I'm going to go through and unmute the lines so that you all can ask any additional questions that you have, and then we'll get this wrapped up and let you all get back to work. So if you don't have a question, if you wouldn't mind on your end, go ahead and muting your line so we're not catching a lot of background noise. But I am going through the list now and unmuting everyone that can be unmuted. And almost there. One more. All right. So everyone should be unmuted at this point. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Okay. All right. So that sounds like we have questions. So, Billy, I appreciate your time on this presentation. Certainly do thank you for taking time out of your day. And also thank all of those that attended. Had a good crowd today, and we welcome all of you, and we're glad that you were able to attend. We hope that you found it enlightening. I'm going to take the screen back here real quick, and just want to, okay, so if you have any questions with this presentation, please feel free to reach out to us. Email address here on the screen, as well as phone number and website that you can take a look at. If you have any questions, reach out to us, and we will be in contact with you on the one question that we were not able to answer. And again, thank you for attending, and we hope you did find it useful, and look forward to seeing you next month. Next month in July, we are going to discuss the new Dynamics GP web client. So if you are tired of updating all of your workstations and you want to get into an environment where you could access GP from potentially outside your network, if you're working from home, things like that, you don't want to have to keep up a Citrix server or anything of that nature, the Dynamics GP web client might be exactly what you're looking for. And it's become a very full-featured alternative to the standard client installation. Okay? So we look forward to seeing you next month. Check your email or look in your email. You'll be getting an invitation to that. We will see you then. Thank you.